I've been waiting to do this for quite some time now. My Chicago collection, maybe shown many times here on VC, but this is my collection of Chicago. The studio albums, all studio albums 1 to 21. Hello everybody, welcome to a pretty sunny and nice autumn/winter day here in Sundsvall. This is going to be very interesting. Everybody who have seen my videos or knows me knows that I'm a huge fan of Chicago, and I also have been struggling to get a complete Chicago, or at least complete when it comes to the 70s and 80s, from their first to number 21 studio albums, that is, and I finally managed to do that, and I'm really happy for that. In the chronological order, I'm missing a couple that are compilations, and I felt like there are numerous of Chicago compilations, and only to have the complete chronological order, I have to have a couple of compilations that don't do me anything. So I felt like I want to put energy on the studio albums in first hand. So I have a lot of vinyl, I have some singles and some CDs. I don't have all that much singles with Chicago, so I guess there is something that I still can do some finding on. The oldest one is this one, bought on this spring record fair, if I'm not wrong. Chicago, Hold Me, Make Me Smile and Color My World, from 1970. We have from 1976, If You Leave Me Now and Together Again. From 1977, Baby What a Big Surprise and Taking It on Uptown. Doing a big jump forward in time to 1982 and Love Me Tomorrow. And we have, of course, Hard to Say I'm Sorry. Of course, You're the Inspiration. Now this is, if I'm not wrong, the first time I heard Chicago. We had a video chart show back in 1985, 84, 85 called Baggin', where this one was shown in the video, in form of the video, and it was, I think that was the first time when I discovered Chicago. From there it was, of course, mainly the 80s Chicago that I actually liked, with maybe an exception for the recently mentioned If You Leave Me Now. But I think for the past 20 years I've also had a huge interest for the older Chicago. And the follow-up to You're the Inspiration was this one, Along Comes a Woman. I think this one should have been a hit. It wasn't as big hit as it should have been, but it was a really great one. A much debated song, 25 or 624. I mentioned it in my previous vinyl CD update that I don't have any problem with it, even if it is not nearly as good as the original one, but it is an 80s version that is pretty much okay. I like the drums in this one, great produced by David Foster. So, and the follow-up to that one, if I'm not wrong, was Will You Still Love Me? We're in the 1986 now. Chicago, doesn't do all that much soundtracks, but they were in the Days of Thunder, where they performed Hearts in Trouble, 1990. And, of course, Look Away, from 19. Those are the singles that I have, so I guess there is much to be improved there. Now let's move on to the huge stack of albums that they have made. Might wonder, will I ever get the ones after 21? Hopefully, if I can find it, but it's not all that easy to find them actually. They are released on CDs and isn't found anywhere. They are of course not nearly as classical as these older ones, which I think is the reason why they aren't all that easy to find. But this one I remember I was happy. You remember how happy I were in Stockholm when I found it. Chicago Transit Authority. It is very interesting. You might remember when I found it in Stockholm for $10. The year after that I found it for $1. It had been, by this one is a better copy of course, since it is a little more expensive. So I like to imagine that anyway. So this is a really great one. I think this was one of the first older Chicago albums that I got, and I found it for only this one for only $1. I remember the Chicago 2, and this one is, I listened to it many times. Maybe it should have been one of my go-to albums in Steve Carlson's contest also. It's a really great one. Number 3. Number 4 is this one that I bought at the Game and Record Fair this spring. You might remember it. And this live album, Chicago at Cagney Hall. From 1971. We have number 5. As you can hear, it's not all that much imagination when it comes to name of the albums. But that is the charm with Chicago, of course. And the variation to have to mix their name, their logo in every kind of form on any album. So the version for number 6 looks like this. This is a good album, but it's a little bit of middle album. Okay album, but not as special as many of the others. But it's really well made though, still of course. And we have number 7. That I also have on CD in well, some kind of a low budget CD reissue. Might wonder what I hang on to this one, but good to have if you're going to take a walk or something, listening to outdoors. This portable CD player. But I think this Chicago is real nice cover sleeve. Maybe one of my favorite Chicago sleeves by them. Number 8, Not All That Ordinary, from 1975. Number 9 is the only compilation on vinyl that I have. Chicago's Greatest Hits, number 9. Some of these you might remember that have been shown when I bought them in various kind of travelogues and fair videos and so on. Number 10, 1976. This contains then If You Leave Me Now. You might ask what kind of Chicago that is Chicago period that is my favorite. And I can't actually answer that because I like them all. You have the more rock, jazz rock era of the first albums that I really think is awesome. They are so funky. And you have the more melodic, the more little softer version in the 70s, like If You Leave Me Now and so on, that I also think is fantastic, well made. And then they transformed into a mainstream 80s rock pop band that are also really good. That is the Chicago that I actually grew up with. So I can't actually say which I prefer. They are good, all of them, in different ways. That is how I can express it. All of them are so great, but in different ways. Number 11. For some reason, number 12 had a real name. Hot Streets. Here comes an underrated album, number 13. That I actually think is real good. Far better than its reputation. I really like the single Street Player. It's a real great one. We have number 14 then, which is definitely not their best one. It's a Chicago that's a little bit disoriented. They have since had trouble to know what they are going to be. So here that they try to pull down the horns and try to be some kind of a rock band. More than jazz rock, and it's a band that doesn't seem to know what they actually want. So I'm really happy to have finally found it, because it's not all that easy to find. It's not an ordinary Chicago album, but it's not their best album. It's okay album. It's definitely okay, but they have some weak points, and it is you can hear that it's a Chicago a little bit disoriented, which actually. The problem was solved until Chicago 16. This is a Chicago more in a crisscross between the more jazz rocky side and what would become the more commercial Chicago. It is a far better than this one. Far bbetter. They managed to find themselves step by step here. And so on. So, but a real great album. 17, the one with You're the Inspiration, also a real great album that I like very much. The last one with Pete Cetera, as I heard, Pete Cetera wanted to do more solo stuff, but they didn't like that, so he quit Chicago. It's hard to be both a big solo artist and have success in a band. Chicago 18 that you I showed in the vinyl CD update. I haven't been able to listen to this one yet, but more or less small quick peeks. 19. 19. Chicago more in the power ballad style that also works. Look Away, Diane Warren song, is maybe one of the best songs that Diane Warren has done. So I think this is a very good album. And we have 21, because 20 is one of these compilations. Long time since I listened to this one, but it's a good album, no doubt about it. It's definitely a really good album. Then, as a bonus, I also have this one, this live released on a label called Showcase, and it contains the most ordinary songs, of course. And I have a couple of CDs also, with the exception from this one that I already showed. I have this one that is a low budget compilation, very much low budget. Beginnings. This is not the correct sleeve, and it's not a burned CD. I just thought it was better to make an own cover than having not a cover, because I found I got this one, it wasn't with a cover at all. It's a low budget release with their most earliest songs. Fun to have. Another Chicago Live. This one is released on Cheddar MCPS. We're talking extremely low budget. Low budget that you don't know whether it is the right stuff you have here. But it is Chicago Live. It would be foolish not to have it. Then of course Chicago 9 isn't the only compilation I have. I have of course this one, Chicago Story, released in 2002, and during a couple of weeks this was the most selling album in Sweden. So it contains hits from the old times, it contains hits from the newer days, and I think one side is the newer and one side is the older one. So this one is extremely great compilation. If you want to start discovering Chicago and want to start somewhere to really find out what are Chicago all about, this compilation is what you need. Gives you all the answers. And this one, a compilation of their love songs, the heart of Chicago. So that was my Chicago, and if I do find the newer CDs, of course I will find them. But I think my main focus right now is on to find as much Chicago 7 inches as I can. So very satisfied with my Chicago collection. I hope that you have enjoyed my walk through these records, these fantastic iconic records by the iconic band Chicago. I have some contests that I will do. I will do Robert C's friendship contest. I will do Mr. Finglish contest. So I will be back pretty soon. But until next time, take care everybody, and so long.